Listen up, Saints fans and who that's from all over the world. Class is in session. The professor himself, Derek Craig Stevens, is about to drop some knowledge down on you in the Who Dat Nation. So get out your pen, your pencil, your pocket protector, your tablets, everything you can, and listen up. It's time for the Professor Speed.
Battle of the running backs, Devin Brumfield for the Covington Lions and Anthony Puka Williams for the Hornbill Tigers, a battle of the Super Juniors, and both of these teams have a lot of real good Super Juniors playing. Let's start off with just Wade Kaiser before we recap all the scoring. Your thoughts on the first half of this game?
Well, Ken, we knew what we were going to see here. We're going to see two.
Professor?
Okay, that was some live Covington versus Hornbill prep football action in the playoffs down there in Louisiana. All right, so we don't know who's winning that game, but that was a little snippet to all the listeners.
Hornbill is winning.
Did McDonald 35 win, Kyle?
Yes, 35 won their first round, 36-8 versus Grant.
All right. That's me and Kyle's alumni, so congratulations to the Ryan Eagles of McDonald 35 Senior High Preparatory High School located in New Orleans, Louisiana, off of St. Bernard in their new campus. Great news. So keep up the great work, Ryan Eagles, and let's hope they can bring home the title. Well, welcome tonight to another edition of Professor Speaks. I am the professor, Derek Craig Stevens. We're going to talk about the Saints and what's going on in the second half of the season as things are going to heat up in the NFL, the NFC, and the NFC South. And he may come on the mic. I got a dirty bird sitting in the studio with me, my son, James Dixon, but he's working on some tax work for another company. But I may let him talk a little bit about them dirty birds. He's real happy with the Falcons. We'll talk about that a little later. So you may hear from James Dixon in a few moments. To all the Who Dat Nation, all the listeners out there, thank you on behalf of Kyle and I, all the support and love you give Saints Radio. Thank you for supporting our shows on Tuesday night. Who Dat Confession with my two brothers, Rev, Deuce, and Brian. Thank you on Wednesday night for supporting Kyle T with the Saints News. Thank you for supporting our football dad, Coach Daly, who's really busy right now with prep football. So that's why you haven't heard too much from him, but he usually tapes his shows on the podcast. And thanks for supporting me and Brendan. Brendan is calling a game in Charlotte. You know, he's the junior Howard Cosell. So, Brendan, we love you. And I talked to him earlier today, so he sends his love to all of the Who Dat Nation.
So I will be here again.
Oh, gosh. Help me. Have to put up with him again. Maybe Diva and Rennie will call in so we can have some comedy. What's up, buddies? I love you, Rennie. Love you, Diva. That's my sister and brother. And we cut up. So let's talk about some exciting stuff. The New Orleans Saints, the winners of 4 of their last 5 games. They are, after the Dallas Cowboys, the hottest team in the NFC. Yes. Remember the 0-3 start we had? And I'll be the first to admit, I began to write the team off because I didn't think they knew how to win. And so they've turned things around, and right now they're in the thick. They're only 1.5 games behind James Dixon's Dirty Birds, the Atlanta Falcons, and they are right in the midst of the playoff hunt. Now, I don't really like to talk about playoff hunt with 8 games to go. It's just a bit too early, but I am going to talk a little bit about that in terms of what the Saints must do from a prognosis standpoint from the professor. So get your tablets, turn on your desktop, get the keyboards out, pen and paper if you're still using that type of device to take notes, your mobile phones, and I'm going to give you some lecture notes on what we must do. for the second half of the season. Last week I gave out mid-year grades, so I'm not going to recap that. But tonight I'm just going to talk about, where we're headed in direction and talk about the San Francisco game. Okay, the Saints beat the San Francisco 49ers out in the Bay Area 41-23. It was an unbelievable performance by the offense, in particular Mark Ingram, who rectified the 2 fumbles he had in the Kansas City game in Seattle. And my man Mark Ingram came out on the vendors, as well as Hightower. They rushed for 245 yards against a very bad San Francisco defense. And I tell you, if we can keep this running game going to go along with our area attack, I tell you, it's something else that's going to be that last game, New Year's, in the Georgia Dome between the Falcons, because you have the best 2 offenses right now in the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons and the Saints, and that's going to be some showdown if we can continue as well as the Falcons with the trend in winning. So in this game, on offense, it's real easy. Drew Brees, once again, another stellar performance, 3 touchdowns, 320-plus yards, just a solid game. I think Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady will be your 3, as well as, I don't want to forget, Ezekiel Elliott and definitely Dak Prescott for what they're doing in Dallas. These are your 5 leading contenders at the mid-year mark for MVP. Saying that only one will be able to win this award, because all 5 of these individuals are really having just unbelievable, outstanding seasons. So we'll see what happens in the second half. You got to do it for 16 games, not just 8. But those 5 players, to me, are the MVPs of the league right now, just playing unbelievable football in terms of their play. Getting back to the Saints in this 41-23, I'm going to start with offense. Of course, my grade for Drew Brees, simply A+. I mean, Drew is just playing outstanding. The only point that I dabbed him for was the right with about 2 minutes left in the half when they had a 3rd and 5, and he tried a big play to Mike Thomas that caused him to punt, which gave the ball to San Francisco, and then they scored on the defense on a big play, 65 yards, that made the game unnecessarily close. So, but I didn't penalize him for anything else outside that. I thought in the second half they pulled the accelerator up a little bit, and I would like to see the Saints just put people away, because they only scored 10 points in the second half, but they made the crucial plays, the Michael Thomas touchdown and the field goal when they needed to keep the game out of reach, and the defense played spectacular in the second half. So, Drew Brees, A+. What else can we say about Drew? Nothing else to say on that. The running backs, well, what else can you say? Absolutely A+. 245 yards. We haven't had a running game, like that since the 2011 season. And, there's nothing else to say about Mark Ingram and Hightower. I really am hoping that we can continue this trend. This is the second week in a row in which the Saints running game has been very, very solid. And so if we can continue this running game with having these two, the 2-headed monster, that's going to make the Saints even more potent. And they're playing a Denver Broncos team this upcoming Sunday that is not that great. I think they're ranked 24th against the rush. So they have a great pass defense, but their running defense is not that great. So it's going to be very, very imperative that we continue to run the ball, as Kyle always alludes to, 20, 30 times a game. Coach Spain has to continue to utilize the run. Less of Drew results in greater results for the Saints. That's my philosophy in terms of saying that in the words of Bobby Adair. We need less of Drew. So, Kyle, your thoughts on the running back or Drew? Oh, you're that excited, Kyle, with all that noise. You're that excited about what the running game did.
That was a church service. I apologize, Professor.
Pray for us, guys, so we can beat them.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show again, Professor. It really is an honor, a great privilege.
Cut the crap out. Just analyze it and talk about the game. You know you and I don't get along.
Well, look, man. Saints, look, very interesting. Nick Underhill from The Advocate interviewed with Coach Payton, I guess, through the press conferences today. And Coach was saying if you look at, it's not the fact that you rush the ball 30 times a game, but how you rush the ball. And I have to agree, because if you're rushing the ball 30 times a game and you're only getting 2 yards per carry, that's not effective. But early on, if you have success and you're more highly efficient at running the ball, if you're getting 4, 5 to 6 yards a pop, I think that is the barometer right there to see how effective the Saints can be in rushing the football against the Broncos on Sunday. Because Oakland, man, they really focused on running the football. They had, 218 yards rushing, and they dialed back Derek Carr. He only had 179 yards passing. Could that be the formula that the Saints need to kind of key in on to be able to be effective against highly one of the best defensive players in the league in Von Miller? And, we have an aging guy on the other end, but I mean, still, he's highly effective in what he's doing as well. So we really got to be able to really put some pressure on those guys. And not, like I always tell you, Professor, if you can be able to run at these bullies, hit them in the mouth early, like I used to do you on the playground, it'll be good that you don't mess with me anymore. So if the Saints can do the same thing, I think we could be able to win this game.
Well, I watched the Oakland-Denver game, and I had texted you and communicated with you after I watched that. You're absolutely correct, Kyle. In this game, they dialed down Derek Carr, and they ran the ball with their running backs. That kid Murray, who also torched the Saints, had a great game. And I think the key to this game, especially with Derek Wolfe as well as Taki being out, that I think, and they were very vulnerable to the run. I think the same formula the Saints use against San Francisco and Seattle is the same formula that they're going to utilize. And against that good secondary of Harris and the other gentleman, T.J. Ward, I think it's imperative that the Saints do a short passing game, sort of like what they did against Seattle. And this is a recipe for success on offense. So we'll get a little more into that Denver game. So I look for a high dosage again of Mark Ingram and Hightower. Offensive line, A++. Nothing else to say about that. Great in the passing game, great in the running game. Zach Street is rated the highest right tackle. I look for, if the Saints continue like this, I look for several of them to go to the Pro Bowl. Andrew Speed is showing you why he was the number 1 draft pick. I have to be the first to apologize to Andrew Speed. And, and I thought he was a busted draft pick at first, but he has settled down, and he is playing at all-pro level at left guard also, and Pro Bowl level also. So I have to give credit. My only concern is the situation with Tyron Armstead and the inability of him to get healthy, because he's steady taking hits on his knees. And I want to give Armstead his kudos for toughening out. And, Clemente back him. They're going to have their hands full with Ware and Von Miller. Von Miller can disrupt the game all by himself. So it's going to be imperative that the line, they're facing the Super Bowl MVP and, since J.J. Watt is out, probably the best defensive player in the league right now. So it's not going to be easy, but if they look at the last 2 out of the last 3 games for the Broncos, which they lost, teams are finding success on Denver. Denver is very vulnerable now, and they do not look like the same team, especially they're struggling on offense with the injury to Anderson and with the absence of a solid quarterback. So I think the key, for the Saints on offensive line, and maybe they'll get some help with the leader coming in on situations or the tight ends to help to make sure Von Miller does not take over this game. One good thing for the Saints is Drew has a very quick release. That's why I think for this game, the short pass